Well, hello and welcome to the tmosso podcast. We're starting a new year and we are thrilled to be reviving our interview series. Today, we have a long-sought guest. This is going to be a good one from Schwarz-Etienne, the CEO, Mauro Egermini. Mauro, welcome to the show.
Hi, team. Hi, and welcome to everyone who will listen to this interview. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today.
So I have to say that Schwarz-Etienne has become a personal favorite of mine, and it's a brand with potential like few others, fully integrated, steeped in the tradition of the watchmaking heartland of La Chaux-de-Fonds, and emphasizing its own watches these days more than watches made for others. It's taken huge strides since Mauro, an Italian, stepped into the CEO's seat in 2014. Mauro, tell us a little bit about your early life and whether you had an early passion for machines, watches specifically.
Okay, so first of all, I'm Italian. Yes, it's true. I'm Swiss too since now 3 years, but I'm born in Switzerland, not that far away from here because I was born in Le Lac. And just for the story, my father bought the house of Georges Favre-Jacot, who was the owner and the creator of Zenith. So I'm now the owner of the Zenith House founder. That's for the story. So to explain you that I fall down in the watch industry when I was a child. Everything came from my father, who came from Italy in the mid of the 50s. And during the 70s, he decided to quit all his different jobs and to enter in the field of the watch, but old-fashioned watches. He was an antique dealer. So I'm like Obelix, you know, he fall down into the magician potion. I fall down in the watch industry and I fall in love with that since a long time ago. I was used to play with minute repeaters, Jacquemart, when I was 5-7 years old, with the tourbillon carousel, with the Breguet watches, with a lot of different kind of pocket watches. What was nice with the pocket watches was that you were able to open the back and to see all the mechanism. Now with the wrist watches, okay, you have the open backs, but if it's not open, it's impossible to see through, and it's difficult to open sometimes for a non-watchmaker. So this was the beginning. During my studies and my graduation, I had no choice because I was hired by my father on the kitchen table to assemble movements. Because end of the 70s, he bought with another guy all the inventory, all the stock of Breitling when they failed. And at that time, we had a lot of movement, Valjoux 88, Valjoux 72, 72C, so column wheel movement, manual winding of the 60s. Sorry, and also the early 7750, which were the 77, 30, 32, and 33. And I was obliged to assemble these movements on the kitchen table instead of going outside to run after girls. You know, when you are between 15 and 18, it's just frustrating because you prefer to be outside. And this was clearly a training that I will never forget because it gave everything to me, and it gave the love I have till now for watches and all the fields belonging to watches. Love of the processes also we have at our suppliers, dial processes, dial production processes, movement production assembly processes, cases processes. I have the opportunity to visit a lot of suppliers since the last 20 years. And this is something totally amazing.
So now you studied economics and business formally, but you found your way eventually to Cartier and then Dior, and you helped to launch Louis Vuitton watches before Schwarz-Etienne. Could you tell us a little bit about what you learned about the watch industry during your days with Cartier, Dior, and Louis Vuitton?
So these were really different kind of brands and different kind of learnings, clearly. So first of all, when I finished my degrees, and it was, I think for me, it was one of my best experience because I've been working 3 years for a wine producer and one wine distributor. And I've been attending all the degustation, you know, each time you try a wine, and I learned a lot for my taste, first of all. But my wish was clearly to enter in the watch industry. So I had the opportunity in 96, early 96, to enter at Cartier in a logistic position for 6 years. So my logistic position there was, I was responsible for the clients and the suppliers, both sides, you know. So the clients, it was not the worldwide client, but it was Interdica. So it was the subsidiary, central subsidiary, where we deliver all the watches, not only for Cartier, because we did the launch of Panerai, we did the launch of Montblanc, we had Baume & Mercier, Piaget, Dunhill, and other brands also, all belonging clearly to the group. So there, my first learning was the relation with suppliers, negotiation, but also huge volumes, because we were talking all together, all the brand together, about 500,000 watches per year. So it was a big organization. We were 200 people on site. So I learned a lot on the processes, so how to produce a dial, how to produce a case, how to produce a bracelet, hands, and so on. Because when you have to negotiate lead times, you have to understand how the production is done. You know, you are not someone coming from the moon and telling, okay, I want this within 2 days and this within 4 days. If you need minimum 3 months to get the first component. But to understand that, it took, yes, the first year, it was clearly an immersion in the processes to all our suppliers. And this is so precious. I think this is one of the precious things, because this helped me also to find solution to solve quality issues to our suppliers, because you think out of the box. You are not, you know, with the head on the steering wheel. You are out of the process, and sometimes silly, stupid ideas. With stupid, it seems to you that you have a stupid idea. You give it to your supplier, and finally, this is a solution to solve the quality issue or the lead time issues they have, you know. And second thing that I learned there was how to drive huge volumes, clearly. You know, we have been working also there with my logistic director in the past. I have still now a lot of respect for him, but we succeeded in between the order and the delivery of the watch on the Temps Française, 15 days. In 15 days, we were able, since we get the order, to deliver the watch. And normally it took 6 months. So we implement all a logistic system in being proactive in terms of supply, to reduce the lead times. So this is both things which were really, really important to me at the time. So now at Dior, yes, please.
No. I just wanted to ask, how did you find your way to Schwarz-Etienne? Were you approached, or did you approach them?
So before, just after Cartier, you know, there was the Dior, because the Dior story lasts 13 years, more than 13 years. So at Dior was the flexibility and the way to be fast in development, because we had 4 collections per year, you know, in the fashion industry, and we had to follow the 4 collections with launches of dials and bracelets. And it was just impossible at the beginning, because the lead time on dials and bracelets were longer than what lasts the collection, you know. So we also found the solution to reduce lead times in terms of development there. And what we did with Dior is to multiply by 10 the average price and reduce by 8 the quantities also clearly. But so the stairs were just beautiful because we reached a star with a brand. And also Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton lasts only 3 years because we did the launch of the Louis Vuitton. Then we doubled the people inside our building. And afterward, we sold all the package, people and plants to Louis Vuitton Maltier to run the business by their own. And now, so what happened with Schwarz-Etienne? Yes, they called me to join the boat, but not because of Schwarz-Etienne at the beginning, but because of E2O innovation. So escaping and oscillating organ to drive that company. And a few weeks after, Mr. Radicki, who is the owner of Schwarz-Etienne, he had just fired his CEO and told me, okay, Mauro, you're from the watch industry. Please, can you drive the brands? And okay, I just asked 3 questions. The answers were clear. And I said, okay, yes, we can do that. And it was, I think, the best decision I've been taking in my life.
So now the company has been making watches in Chaux-de-Fonds and movements since 1902, but for much of that period, it was white label, building watches for retailers, other brands on contract. So after the relaunch in the 2000s, things really got going right around the time you arrived in 2014. What was the company like when you arrived in 2014?
So when I arrived in 2014, my gift was the 2 first 6 bridges manufacture movements. So the MSE and ASE. So the same movement, but one with a micro-rotor and the other one with the 2 barrels. It was a gift, and with just 2 watches assembled with that movement. The first Romas. On the side, we had a lot of not old-fashioned because they were still there at that time, but the non-manufactured watches, you know, Olympia, London, also other Romas with conceptual movement, with Ita and Celita movement. So my first decision there was we did the first Basel Fair, so in 2014, just to feel what was the expectative of the market. And after that, I tell to Mr. Radicki, okay, we have to totally change the strategy. The strategy of Schwarz-Etienne should be 100% manufactured. It's impossible to have watches at 9,000 entry price, 9,800, and on the other side to have chronographs with a 750 at 4,000 Swiss francs. For 2 reasons. First, the chronograph, okay, the engine is an ETA engine, it's absolutely indestructible, really qualitative. But you have other brands bigger than us who were able to sell that watches at 2,000. So we were the double. Why we were the double? Because we were small. And when you order cases by 50 and other brands order cases by 10,000, same with the movement, same with the hands and dials, it's impossible for us to compete with global brands. So, but it was possible for us to show our savoir-faire, our know-how, you know, because we were able to develop, to produce and assemble between 60 to 70% of the added value on each movement. So it was the first strategic choice I did in 2014. And since 2014, we never stopped to develop movement, always starting from the base of MSE, ASE. In 2015 was the ISE, the irreversible Schwarz-Etienne, which gave the birth to Roswell family. After that, the flying tourbillon. After that, the tourbillon under bridge, but with retrograde, small retrograde second. And then the ISE on Roswell was the day changing by pusher, the Q8, the day changing by pusher at 4 o'clock and so on.
And I would just throw out there for our listeners, the ISE, the irreversible Schwarz-Etienne, that is a movement that features dial side escapement and balance, as well as dial side micro-rotor. All of the machine is on the front of the watch, and that's the idea.
Exactly. And why did we call it irreversible? Because we reverse the movement one time, and we will never come back. Come back, what does it mean? All the other movements, so the flying tourbillon, the tourbillon on the bridge, and the other ISE movement with a big date have been launched and developed starting from the ISE. Because why? So clearly, the new face of Schwarz-Etienne on one side, so we have two faces. Now we try to be really classical, but on the other hand, we need to show what is beautiful on a watch and to show it on the top, you know. It's like Houdini who shows this magic tour, you know. It's not a question of education, it's a question of sharing. When you play with that watch, when you press the pusher and the date change, you can explain to your friends, to your family, to another passionate guy, how the quick change of the date function with a column wheel. When you have the flying tourbillon, you can understand how it works. When you're a retrograde second, you can understand how it works. And why I decided to do that with a retrograde second, it was clear because, again, back to the childhood, I had the opportunity to understand all the complications, but only one was ununderstandable for me. It was the retrograde system, because it was always guided by the dial. So you had to dismantle the dial to understand. And it's the reason why also we decided to put this first smaller complication on our watch, on the La Chaux-de-Fonds tourbillon, to de-dramatize and to show clearly how a retrograde second works.
Now, some listeners might be surprised to know about all of this because they're encountering the brand for the first time. Schwarz-Etienne has always been a connoisseur's brand, a smaller brand. Listeners might be surprised to know you make your own micro-rotor automatics, manual wind watches, retrogrades, jump hours, tourbillons, and flying tourbillon. So for those who are learning about the brand for the first time through this podcast, could you tell us a little bit about the different model lines you have and what kind of watches they contain?
Okay, so we have 4 different families of products. One which is really classical and is a Roma family. So the Roma family is a round case, 4 lugs, beautiful dial, which is 3 level of finishing, you know, with a flanqué, grenet, and sunshine effect on the counters. And the beauty is also behind. The beauty is behind because we have the 6 bridges movement. It was the first Schwarz-Etienne movement. Why 6 bridges? 6 bridges because we wanted the movement to be a tribute to the watchmaking, but also to the old-fashioned watchmaking, to the pocket watches. Now, the more we go ahead, the more we try to be reliable, it's clear, but efficient. And efficiency means you reduce the quantity of bridge, you try to implement all the things which help you to assemble it the soonest, the best, to save cost, to save time, clearly. And our strategy there was not at all that. It was clearly to work on the reliability, sure, but not to work on the big volumes movement. We wanted something which we had to be proud of, and which looked like an old-fashioned pocket watch, but adding something new on it, because these 2 movements, so the manual and micro-rotor, they have 3 hands, hour minute and small second at 6. But we wanted the flexibility on this movement. So if we turn the movement and we look at the movement on the dial side, on the main plate, we have a lot of holes. And these holes help for modularity. So on the same thickness of the movement, we can have a GMT with central hand or central disc without changing the thickness of the movement, which was totally new 10 years ago. And another thing, it was power reserve indication that we can put at 2 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So this helps to have until 10 different faces with one sole case, you know, because you don't change the thickness, so you don't have to change the case. You change just the dial and the move and the inside of the sandwich inside the movement, and that was it. So this is the first category of watches we have. Afterwards, we did the launch of Roswell. Why Roswell? What happened in the US, Roswell in 1947? I'm a fanatic of science fiction. I love Fox Mulder and Dana Scully. I love, yes, no, that's so cool. I love, you know, I love because I travel. Each time I watch that kind of movies or series, I travel, you know, I close my ears, I open my eyes, and I travel with them. And it's a way not to, yeah, it's the best way to be in vacation for a few hours, So I'm fanatic of science fiction, and I believe there are somewhere. It's impossible that there is no one anywhere, you know, absolutely impossible. So it was a tribute also to the old-fashioned UFOs, flying saucers, you know. The shape of the case is like a UFO, and the gift box is a UFO I designed myself on my desk at 4 o'clock a Friday afternoon. It's a detail, but okay. And inside we have the ISE movement, irreversible, where we can see directly from the front the balance wheel, the anchor wheel, and the anchor functioning all the time. There we did the launch also of the Matrix Tribute, which is my cult movie, sorry. And on the back of the watch, you have the rain of numbers you have at the beginning of the movie of Matrix on the back dial, clearly. And on the top, you have this particular thing where you can set the date quickly with a pusher at 4 o'clock, which push a column wheel. The column wheel normally is used for chronographs, only for chronographs, but here we change the utility of the column wheel to drive the quick change, quick setting of the date. After that, we have the La Chaux-de-Fonds. La Chaux-de-Fonds are masterpieces. As you have understood, each name of our family of products, they have a city name. It's historical at Schwarz-Etienne. Roma first, why? Because Mr. Radicchi and I, we are all Italian, both Italian originally, and we are both Swiss now. Roswell, because Roswell in the US, you are the first to understand what it means. La Chaux-de-Fonds, because it's where the Schwarz-Etienne, the place where Schwarz-Etienne was born, clearly, and it's a tribute. We are in love with that city. We are living here for more than 40 years on my side, and more than 50 for Raffaello, and we are proud to be in this city where the wolves say each other good night, because it's always cold, snow. We have two, we have two seasons in La Chaux-de-Fonds, winter and taxis. That's all. And so La Chaux-de-Fonds with our tourbillon movement, and finally the Fijis. The Fiji family, which is a watch designed by a lady for a lady. You will see if you touch the watch, the crown is oversized. When you have nail, you can set the time really easily. We have a diamond on each watch. We have a quick change of the straps of the bracelet. Easy to do because you need to be fashionable. You have a beautiful small animation at 6 o'clock where you have a disc turning underneath the dial, which give life to the dial, and it seems to be a heart beating, you know. And finally, the gift box is a leather bag with a pouch for ladies, clearly.
So now, have you had any interest in, because I've seen the Fiji and 38 millimeters, it's not quartz, it's not super small, it doesn't have many diamonds, it has one. Have men ever expressed interest in the Fiji? Because the salmon dial model in particular from 2019, it's very close in size to the Synergy Roma that you did with Kari Voutilainen.
Yeah. So we have a 38 millimeters Fiji and a 39 Roma with Kari. This is that we need to follow the trend. Clearly, the trend now is between 38 to 42, and more 38 to 40, to tell you the truth, instead of 42. But yes, we had a lot of demand coming from men. They don't care about the fact that it's a woman, designed by women for women, because the look is clearly also classical. The look is the dial is not fashionable. We are not working with mother of pearl or flowers and so on. We remain watchmakers, you know. We remain watchmakers.
So we'll jump back to the watches themselves in just a moment. But I think it's important to talk about some of the acquisitions you've made and the specialist departments you established. Bridges, wheels, balances, hairsprings, escapements. A lot of folks are going to be surprised to know that you make all of this as well. Could you walk us through like what E20 Innovations is, what Tradition Mécanique Horlogère does within your group, and what La Division du Temps does within Schwarz-Etienne?
Okay, so we have first of all E2 Innovation. It's clear it was a huge work and really difficult to master. Where we produce balance wheel, we produce anchor wheel and anchors, which are the and airsprings. Clearly, airspring, which is the most difficult thing to master. These four elements means the heart of the watch. When you listen to the tick tack, tick tack, tick tack of the watch, this is an anchor with the pallets it's not in sapphire, but in the red sapphire, which is called oh my God, I forget. Rubies, yes, pallets in rubies, which eat the wheel, and this produces the tick tack. We listen, the heart beating of the watch. But now the most difficult thing to master is the airspring. To understand, to produce a airspring, we start with a alloy. It's a wire of 0.6 millimeter of diameter. We have to reduce the diameter, and on the same time, in reducing the diameter, you pull the wire, so it becomes longer and longer. So a wire of 50 meters of 0.6, we reach 2,300 meters of 0.08. 0.08, sorry, wire. When we have that wire, afterwards, we have to press it between two rolls. It's a rolling machine, a nano roll. In order to change the dimension, instead of having a tube or a cylinder, we need to have a blade, rectangular section. And here we need to the accuracy just amazing, because 1 micron of difference of thickness means 3,000 seconds of running difference per day. So it's enormous. It's enormous. Then we did buy a machine developed also. It was inside house in the past. And this machine allows us to be at plus or less 0.1 micron of accuracy. This means 100 nanometers. It's not possible to measure that. So we had to find other solution to be sure that the thickness was the right one. And finally, we succeeded in producing that kind of components. The production is not we are not producing volumes clearly because it's really difficult to master, first of all, but also difficult to implement, to run to be like a Nivarox. Clearly, just it takes years and years and years. So this is the first thing. And la division du temps. So la division du temps, I need to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to Ming, because my decision at the beginning was just to be able to produce movements, but on bigger watches. So we took the risk 4 years ago to launch the 3 bridges movement, ASE and MSE. This is a 200 by 2000. Why? My wish was, okay, we have to invest for 2 reasons. First, to be presented like an engine producer. We said motoriste in French, engine, so movement producer. And my wish was also to be able to sell movements to other watchmakers. In terms of price, we are at the level of Vaucher Manufacture. I have a lot of respect for them. We have also a micro-rotor, but the philosophy of our movement are totally different. But the price, we are more or less at the same level of price. So they were our first competitors. And knowing that, Ming came 1 year afterwards, and he was not presented like a brand owner or brand developer. He came with Magnus Bosse. Magnus Bosse was part of the Purist Pro. And we met him during the Basel Fair, and he stayed half an hour. We have a sushi, I call it a sushi plate, where we have the different movements, you know, on a wooden plate. And we spent half an hour to watch with the loop, take pictures, turn the movement upside down, try to wind them up and so on. And after that, when I saw that he was so passionate, I told him, okay, Magnus, our door is wide open anytime with the people you want. It's better to come to us to see what we're able to do and to share that. And finally, 1 month after he came with Ming, he told me, yes, I came with a watch lover, photographer, professional photographer, and collector. So, okay, come. Door is wide open. We spent 1 full day with both of them. And at the end of the day, Ming took out a design with the 1901 watch and told me, I was also with Luc, my project manager, project R&D manager. And he showed the design. I said, okay, Ming, what do you want? Do you want the movement? You said, no, it's a complete watch. Okay, I looked at Luc and told him, okay, we develop watches for us. We can develop for me, right or not? It took 10 seconds. And Luc said, oh, yes, sure. And we decided to re-enter in that field in 25 seconds, clearly. And 1 year after, knowing and seeing that Ming wanted to continue to develop, we decided to create the division of time, la division du temps in French, division of time. I love that name because watches are dividing times, you know, and this is a division of Schwarz-Etienne to produce a private label. This is the etymology of the name. And yes, so why we create the division of time? Because clearly on the long term, it's not good to mix the name of a brand with other brands, even if we are not competitors, even if we are competitors, you know. Everybody knows now, everybody says, okay, this is the Schwarz-Etienne movement. This is not a division of time movement, it's okay. But in the long term, I think we have the brand and the entity to produce a private label.
So now you have a lot of friends. You've built watches, or at least movements, for Ming, Havid Nagen, Chopin, many others. What is the current split between how much of your business is work for customers and how much is Schwarz-Etienne's own watches under its own brand?
Okay, so at the beginning, it was 80% Schwarz-Etienne, 20% private label. Now the private label is going so fast that we are catching up the delay, you know, and we are around 50-50. But I won't be surprised, you know, that private label will be much more in the next 2 or 3 years, because the ramp up is clearly faster than to settle and to set a brand on the market, clearly. You understand, to develop a brand, it's now 7 years that I'm there, almost 8. And we are now cultivating the fruits of what we did in the past. It was really tough because you are not a global brand. You have not the millions to put on marketing. I've been working for Richemont and LVMH, so I know exactly how much they put in marketing for brands, and we have not that capability. So we are smaller. We need to be perhaps smarter, but it takes more time. It takes more time. Now for Schwarz-Etienne, it's now 2 years that we are clearly taking off. With private label, the takeoff, it's not a 747. It's like I don't know. It's FA-18. You know, it's much faster. Yeah, it's a jet. It's a jet.
So for people who are trying to get a sense of the size of the brand, roughly how many watches does Schwarz-Etienne make each year as Schwarz-Etienne, not white label?
So at Schwarz-Etienne, we can. So at the beginning, it was around 100, 150. Now we are around the double.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very close to a company like De Bethune, about 200, 210, maybe 300.
Yeah, exactly. Between 200 and 300, depending of the year, the last 2 years. But it's clear that we won't stop there. My wish is to reach 400 to 500, and after we'll see. I don't want to produce 10,000 watches per year. Clearly not. But I think the critical size for us should be around 500 watches per year.
And for our listeners, just for perspective, you know, De Bethune is going to be 200 to 220, maybe 250 a year. FP Journe around 900, and Moser, another independent, about 1,500. So you get a good sense of the scarcity of Schwarz-Etienne watches. These are not mass-produced timepieces. So I do have another question. As you grow, I've often said that the worst part of owning a luxury watch is service. As your volume grows, watches are going to come back eventually for routine service and overhauls. So how are you preparing to meet those watches and be ready for them so that they can come back to their owners relatively quickly and in good condition?
So we are already organized for that, you know. So we have a small after-sales service team. It's clear that we are too small to have subsidiaries worldwide, and the volumes are not big enough to be interested or to get the interest of shops who can deal with our movement. And we don't push for that for 2 reasons. Because we want to master our quality. First of all, it takes a lot of time to train watchmakers on new products with the level of quality we need and we want. This is the reason why it's better not to lose that time for only a few volumes you can have on the market. We prefer to get the watch back. So under warranty, it's clear that we pay everything. So the way we work is clear. So when we get the watch, we have 2 weeks to make the how do we say, you know, to make the price offer for the repair if it's something they have to pay. And after that, we have 4 weeks to make the job and ship the watch back. After the shipment, you know, it takes 3 days. It doesn't take 1 week or 2 weeks, you know. Within 6 weeks, I can tell you that 90 to 95% of the products which come back in the company are on the wrist of their first owner.
That's very good. So a month and a half, the watch goes out, you get the estimate, the work is done, and the watch is returned.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of folks out in internet land are going to be very happy to hear that information. We've gotten used to months or even years from some independents to get watches back, so 6 weeks is very encouraging. So jumping back to the products themselves, how does a new model take shape? You have watches that are as different as the Roma Synergy with Kari Voutilainen to the Ode to the 70s, which is a wild Champlevé enamel, tourbillon. Who designs these watches, and are you part of that process?
Yeah, so my dream was to be a car designer. During the watches assembly and before to start my graduation in economics, I wanted to be a car designer. So I have clearly a relationship with that field, which means a lot to me, But I draw, but I'm not a good designer, clearly, because to me it was impossible to make the school because my parents were not rich at that time. And the cost was huge because we were talking of $150,000 for 3 years. It was too much. So I didn't even ask to my parents to finance this. Now the design, it's clear that we work with external designers, and notably with Neodesis, Antoine Choumi. Antoine has been working for Greubel Forsey for years. And also for other famous brands, but not only. But this is the main designer we are using. So the Odos of 70s, the dial has been designed by another friend in Geneva because we wanted something crazy. And this is part of our culture, our life in Schwarz-Etienne. We love to be classic, but we have or to put a poetic touch, or something crazy, or something really classic is what we did with Kari. With Kari, the design was chosen by us too and done by the Kari's team, clearly also in terms of design. But we have been sharing everything. So he designed the dial, the numerals, and so on. We changed a little bits. So some details. Afterward, he told me, okay, these are the palettes, what you can choose in terms of rose gold engine of Guilloche. So I chose the Guilloche, and finally I shared with him. And he told me, okay, this perhaps I will do that a little bit different. Try to see on this one and this one, because, he had a lot more experience in Guilloche than me. And finally, gave the birth to the Roma Synergy, and clearly I'm so proud of that watch and so proud to have been able to develop that with someone who became a friend since 3 or 4 years, because the friendship, I met Kari first time 4 years ago, and I'm not capable to do that kind of thing if I'm not friend with the people, with the person. And it's a friendship story. It's absolutely not a business story. It's clearly my wish with Kari. I asked him, it was on the table of a restaurant at 11 o'clock during the London Fair. And I told Kari, I need your vision. Can we do something together? I need your vision on classical things. Yes, can we do something where you perhaps produce the components, we design the watch together, we redesign the watch together, and so on. And I said, okay, we have been drinking a few glasses of wine. I don't need an answer now. I call you back within 2 weeks. And 2 weeks after, said, okay, yes, we do that. And, friendship is not business. And to give you the proof that last weekend, I'm fanatic of old-fashioned cars. I have just a young timer, an old Jaguar, but a young timer. And we do that with friends for a 3 days weekend. We move from in Switzerland or in Italy, just 3 days to drive the old cars. And Kari came with us with his wife last year. We have been spending a full weekend between friends, and this is, to me, this is a real life. This is a real life, you know. It's not business. It's clearly we share something. We have the same passion. The result is absolutely not the same between Schwarz-Etienne, which is more industrial brand, and Kari, and also the quantity produced. Kari is producing between 60 to 70, 80 pieces. A lot of things done by hand. On our side, it's much more industrial. It's also what explains the difference of price between Kari and Roma Synergy, and also if the dial and the movement is decorated with Kari, the rough components are not, they have not the same cost. It doesn't mean that they have not the same quality, because the level of quality is the same, but the way to reach, the way to get the final movement is not totally the same.
So now what can watch collectors look forward to this year? Will there be another collaboration with Kari Voutilainen or another friend, perhaps? Is there a date we should keep in mind for new watches?
So yes, sure. It's something that we will continue to do. Perhaps not each year, perhaps each 2 years. We will see, it depends. It's clear that we will have the next collaboration will be done by someone really famous also, a watchmaker, a crazy watchmaker. I love him. And this will be done by end of this year, beginning of next year. So we will present something by that time, but you will be aware about that, be part of the first. So we decided to play with a small complication, but presenting it with a system which has never been used to give this indication. I can't tell you anymore. No more.
Fair. Can we look forward to new models this year? Should we look forward to Watches and Wonders Geneva, Midsummer? How do you choose when to release novelties with Basel and SIHH gone?
So, you know, to me, you don't need to be at SIHH or at Basel anymore. You don't have to follow the trend of the others. We are small, so you present the watch in daily, you have perhaps to avoid July and August, perhaps because vacation for half of the planet, you know. But out of that, with the social media, with the help of guys like you, you can launch at any time, you know. And to me, it's even better not to launch something during the SIHH, during the Watches and Wonder. Why? Because when you have you know, dinosaurs, big brands who put millions, so they take all the media for them, and it's normal. They pay for that. It's normal. So you become invisible, you know. So we prefer to be relayed by people like you. We work a lot by Instagram, Facebook, and that kind of thing. It's also cheaper because we have to be smart. We have to be intelligent sometimes, you know, and to put the money where we can put it, and to play and to pay what we are able to pay. That's it.
So now our friends online, they're going to want to know how they can find out more about Schwarz-Etienne watches. I assume you have regional distributors. You don't do your own distribution, do you?
No. So we have an agent in the US called Frozen, but now we are clearly opening door in the US. But perhaps I will write something to you if you want to relay that to your listener, because So I don't want to say we open that door and it's still not open, you know.
Fair enough.
So I will give you the information tomorrow by email with our sales manager, clearly. But we normally should be able to have 3 to 4 doors in the US this year.
Mauro, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. This was far-ranging and illuminating. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim. It's my pleasure. And to you and to all the listeners, welcome anytime in Switzerland. If you come, the door will be wide open to make a full visit. Clearly.
Guaranteed. I'll be there. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you.